Hey guys, it's Charles Oslin here with Liquid Blue Cabarete in Cabarete, and today we're going to be talking about a light wind setup and a normal setup and then a high wind setup. Do you need one setup that does it all? Is that even possible? Or do you need to have a light wind setup and then your normal day setup? Or how do you need to position yourself in the wing foiling world essentially? And the thing is, it really depends on the spot you're riding at. So a place like this in Cabarete, we have all types of conditions. We have everything from 10 knot days, which is, let's say, well right now it's even less than 10 knots, but a 10 knot day up to a 30 knot day. So we need to have sort of a range if we want to maximize our time on the water. But there's places, let's say like in Florida, that they maybe always have generally light wind, and then there'll be those odd days where they have crazy winds because of a hurricane or storm passing through. And people are always saying like, how many setups should I get? This always depends on you. So if you want to have as much water time as you can, then you're probably going to want to have all types of equipment so that you could sort of pick and choose according to the day. And what makes a light wind setup a light wind setup? Well, essentially, anything that is bigger than what you normally need is a light wind setup. So that's going to change from person to person. But let's say for someone like myself, I usually ride a 33 liter board right back here. So a light wind setup for me might be a board that's around 60 or 90 liters, just for those odd days where it might be flat, but it's a little bit windy and it's sunny, and I just want to get out there. But it won't be my day-to-day board. And that board, in reality, I might only get a couple uses out of it in the entire year before just, wow, I just had a complete brain fart. It doesn't matter. But essentially, a light wind setup, what I've seen in my personal experience is that you really don't use it that much. Same on the opposite end as a high wind setup. So in terms of, let's say, winging, for me, a 3.5 meter wing is a pretty small wing. And I have one in the quiver. I've used it maybe twice in the entire year. So that's not really that much. If I had to buy that wing brand new, let's say it's around $1,100, then each session theoretically cost me $550 with that wing, because I've only been able to put 2 uses into it. And that's why you always see like the smaller gear is usually newer or less used than the more average sizes. And same with the light wind gear, depending on the place, most of it's generally in good condition because they might not use it that much. So here on the opposite end, I have, for example, a 7 meter behind me, and that 7 meter is only going to go out maybe a couple of times this year because we generally have enough wind for a 4.5, 5, or 5.5 throughout the year. So having these odd sizes will extend our time on the water, and I essentially see it as a luxury. So if you're able to have that luxury of having a bunch of equipment for any sort of conditions, then amen and great, that's good on you. And but most people don't have that. So I would for sure try to get a setup that is for those average normal days, that wherever you might be, and for your body size and your skill level. And if you want to just have one quiver, have it a little bit on the larger size, because most of the time you're going to usually have less rather than more wind, unless you live in a place where you have more wind rather than less, and you'll just have to scale accordingly. In Brazil, they scale their gear differently than we do in Cabarete, and someone in Germany scales their gear differently than they do in Brazil, just to put it that way. So that's that in regards of having a light wind or a high wind or a strong wind setup. Essentially, all you're doing is changing your foil, and you're changing the volume on your board most of the time. And the reverse, when it's stronger winds, you're usually scaling down on your board and scaling down on your foil. So if you have any other further questions, make sure to comment it down below, send us an email, send us a WhatsApp, and we're going to try to get back to you. Though doing some research, looking at what other people are doing around you usually helps, and also checking it out on the internet. But most of the time, and most people know who they are, who have a lot of equipment for all kinds of conditions. If you're that type of person, great, and you can afford it, do it. But if not, if you're the average day-to-day winger or athlete or sporting enthusiast, then get the equipment that's right for you for most of your conditions, and you're gonna have a great time whenever you're able to get out. So that's it, guys, for this video. My name is Charles Oslin with Liquid Blue Cabarete in Cabarete, Dominican Republic. And today, I'll leave you with this view of a normal day in Cabarete.